Hi, my name is Shawn. That guy down there is Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. Welcome to the Legend of Korra, Book 4 Balance. This is episode 4, chapter 4. I do that every time, I think, every week. It's called The Calling. And I'm very excited to talk about this one, with all due respect to the last one. But before that, Chris, how are you doing? What have you been up to?
I'm doing good. I've been knee deep in action figure repainting. Like it's been taking up a lot of my time and stuff, which I've just been really to always get into a random hobby and then I just get full deep into it. And then I kind of get over it. Like I told my wife that she's like, "Yeah, I noticed."
But when you get actually deep into it, like you actually sort of really experience it. So maybe not over a big chunk of time, but like you actually
Yeah,
fully dove in, give it a try a little while, and then, you know, I don't know, like gives you a real
yeah,
experience of it instead of just
yeah.
like dipping your toes in.
It's not that like I lose interest in it. It's just like I usually come to like some type of completion. Like right now, I'm doing like a bunch of black. Like right now, I have like a bunch of black superheroes that I'm repainting and trying to make. So I got like a black Superman. I mean, these are like legit comic characters, not just random black Superman. His name is Valzad. And I got Black Lightning and a couple other ones. And there's like six other ones that I want to do. And then once I do that, I'll be kind of done repainting action figures and customizing them pretty much. It'll go back to more of a thing I do sparingly. And so that's the same way with like when I did mosaics and stuff.
You were kind of completing a
Um,
set right now.
yes,
Well, you know what? You'll have to tell me if this is inappropriate, but it came into my head. It's like Blaction Figures set.
the black.
It just feels
I am
right.
trying. Yeah, yeah.
Somebody has to have said that before. I can't be the
Uh-uh.
first person, but
Uh, it
no,
was an
there's like
episode
a
of
sense of
Scrubs
closure
where
in your mind where you've kind of hit what you wanted to do, and you're like, "That's the art project. The inspiration is complete."
yes, yeah. Oh yeah, that's what I'm working on. It's a lot of fun.
You
A lot
started
of
to
fun just to
mention episode of
transform some.
Scrubs, though. You can't tease a
Oh
Scrubs
yes,
episode
so
that
sorry.
we've.
There was an episode of Scrubs where JD was trying to record an episode of Doctor Acula, or trying to record his own Doctor Acula. Which, if you don't know, Doctor Acula is a story about a vampire because you take Doctor Acula and take that period out of the Doctor and squish together. It says Dracula. But
Your JD cadence
yeah,
is perfect.
yeah, no, right. And then so he's recording. He's recording with on some type of video recorder, and Turk is in it, and he wants Turk to be like this really offensive, stereotypical black character, and he's like, Turk, more blacker this time, and then he says, and then, and then he says blaction. You know how directors say action. He says blaction, and then Turk's like, oh, you want blacker, huh? And then he ends up beating JD up and taking the starring role.
Oh my goodness.
Uh,
That's I'm gonna say JD peak JD offensive probably.
yeah. Then so I think I'm sort of still on the Scrubs rewatch, but the more I rewatch it this time around, I notice just how like terrible of a person JD is oftentimes. I mean, he's not a terrible person in general. He's a great person in general. He really cares about his patients, and like that. But sometimes he does stuff just like, why would like it's some things are serious. Just like, why would you do that? Like, that's mean
That's
or
is
stuff
that
like that.
supposed to
But
like help us as characters as people relate to him? Like, hey, we're trying really hard to be good people, but you have to like keep an eye on all these little like micro things that you do that are really fucking stupid. Pardon my language.
yeah, it might be some of that. Yeah,
Because like when you watch him, you actually get angry. You're like, why would you ever? Like,
yeah.
it
Like
doesn't.
there's a time that he was gonna he was trying to have his cakes and eat it too. He was dating this one black girl who's like, gosh, she was anyway, um, beautiful woman. Um, and like he was dating her, and she was like, I don't want to, have sex yet. And he was like, oh, you know what, that's fine. And he really wasn't fine with him, but he had a chance to hook up with what's her name? I mean, her name was Molly in the show. She was in Austin Powers, The Spy Who Shagged Me, and
Yeah, is
the,
she a visiting or what is she? Is
yes, she's like a psychiatrist at the hospital.
I can
Why can't
picture
I
the
think of
JD
her
playing
actual
it.
name? Um, kind of a hot actress, and she is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
she's
she's
very hot in the
attractive.
show a lot of
Yeah,
times.
that's the idea.
Um, like he has an opportunity to have sex with her if he gets Elliot's permission. Oh, maybe that's not the episode. Anyway, but if he has, he tries to like, oh, maybe I can go have sex with Molly, and but like he then decides not to, and I think he actually tells his girlfriend that, but then she's like, why would this? Why would you even consider that? Like, well, yeah, JD, like, why would you even consider
But why are you just
that?
putting that out there so casual, like, man?
Yeah. Like he wanted to be like, oh well, Molly, like not Molly, but I forgot her name. Like, I could have had sex with her, but I didn't, like, because I really want to be with you. And it's just like, no, that shouldn't have even been
Yeah, not super
like
helpful at this
you
point, champ.
shouldn't have to question yourself. Anyway, that's
Um,
Scrubs.
no, I do vaguely remember. I wish I could remember the actress's name. I cannot. Never my strong suit, of
No,
course, actors' names. But
yeah,
uh,
it's not.
Chris, I have gotten to start building a PC, which is very exciting. You know, I consider myself fairly nerdy, but I've never had a good kind of high end gaming PC.
That's like the optimum nerdy thing to do is to build your own PC. That's you've reached nerdvana.
Nerdvana,
Hmm.
that's what I'm going for, Nerdvana. Which is funny because other people
Ooh,
who
I
like
should.
build serious PCs would probably look at mine and be like, pfft. But the all I've really learned about PC building is that I am still just an incorrigible cheapskate, and spending money on things is not really in my nature. And PCs are expensive, and I've even managed to. I actually have a surprisingly good GPU. Long story already, so I don't have to buy that. That's like the most expensive part, and I'm trading video games for the CPU. That's like the second most expensive part. So I only have to do the expensive parts, and I still every time I'm like putting money out for this, it's like killing me inside.
Do you know what CPU stands for, Sean?
Central Processing Unit.
Yes, correct.
Awesome. So even with those,
I took in fifth grade. I took a computer class after school for some reason. I guess it was maybe some type of gifted thing. And I always remember what CPU stood for: Central Processing Unit.
there and you know what, there's a lot of acronyms in PC. No, I even my current one I kind of built, but built like much cheaper, like is building a PC that turned on and functioned rather than trying to build something highly functional. But in a perfect world, when it's done, it's going to be able to run my like 3 TVs in here for like work and play and stuff. But then it's also going to run 2 TVs in our nicely remodeled, hopefully, living room, so that there won't be like cords or anything. We'll just be like fancy people who just have the TVs on the wall with no cords that you can see,
Mm,
and
yeah,
that'll be pretty exciting. That's the pinnacle, right? If you don't have cords, you've made it in life, because cords equal lack of success or something. I don't know.
that, that's what they say.
That's
Not
what they
me.
say. I'm looking
I got
around at all the
cords.
cords I can see in plain. I can grab 15 cords without moving out of my chair right now. In this room, there's a very cord heavy corner. Anyway, build the PC. Very excited for it. Hopefully, a little faster at editing videos and the like. That's right now. And Chris, do you want to jump into a very entertaining episode?
Yes, let's get into it. The calling. All right, so we start off with the search for Korra, the airbending kids. Tenzin has tasked them with finding Korra, and I love one of the things I love about Legend of Korra. I think does really well is it builds family dynamics, and this is like the pinnacle of of sibling dynamics. Like siblings can be so annoying, especially at this age with them because they're kind of at different ages. But Milo's like at the age of like he doesn't he doesn't process other people's feelings and he doesn't care about them because he doesn't have empathy yet. And so he's kind of a jerk. Uh Janora is like so old and kind of above it all and trying to be the responsible one because also she's the oldest. And then Ikki's in the middle there. Um And so I just love that dynamic they got going on there. And also I love their character redesigns when it comes to like I don't love the redesign of their suits. I think for some reason I don't like their glider suits and how they look. Something about it. that I think it's too geometrical. Like it's less whimsical
I
for an
don't love that
airbender.
they feel like that they're going for the superhero thing. Like I want them to look more sort of technical, functional rather than superhero-y. But
I want them to
I'm
look
option
more
nitpicking.
nomadic and flowy. More
Yeah,
flowy, yes, more flowy. But
more
I will say this.
appropriate.
I do love I do love their their new designs for their like hair and stuff. Milo now has hair, and for some reason Iki's hair is different. You can tell that she's grown. And then I love how Janora's hair is growing in. Like she kind of cut her hair, but she still has the. I'm glad they didn't keep her bald. I think this look is a lot
Yeah.
better. Her arrows coming through. She has a nice little bob going on. So I just want to point out the good character designing going on there, besides the outfits, which is a huge part of character design. But character design also, used to really tell a story. And I feel like this compared to last season, you really see how much the kids have grown and stuff. Like
And they were
even with their
and
even
they
with
were
their
wearing
heights, and
glasses to show that
I
time
knew you
had
were gonna say
passed.
that. The doctor's gone.
The doctor's going. It is very
Sometimes I get nervous on airplanes.
airplanes. The I like that like it's subtle character changes. It's not unnecessary, but it's subtle, but it's noticeable. They don't go overboard or anything like that. It feels like a very natural progression.
Yeah. And then Milo's like, "Hey, I drew this picture of Korra," and it's like hyper realistic, where it doesn't even match the universe, which is so funny to me that he's really and Iki's like, "Wow, that's really good. Would you learn how to draw?" He's like, "I got many talents," or something.
still
Gosh, I gotta cough.
still the same kid, just slightly more grown up.
So I listened briefly. I wanted to listen to the whole entire commentary, but I first thought that Bryan Konietzko had done that drawing of Korra because it just looks like a drawing that he would do. But he gave it to this other like designer guy named Ryu, and and like he goes to him because he's like, "Hey, we need kind of a realistic drawing of Korra." And then in the commentary, he was like, "So we're in a meeting." He did the drawing like in a meeting, and he came up to us like, "Hey, is this kind of what you were thinking?" And then Brian was like, "No, that's it. Like we're gonna use that." Like imagine just being in a meeting and you just like we've been in meetings plenty of times, just in sometimes you're doing on stuff because you're kind of just bored. But imagine being in a meeting and you just draw a beautiful picture. Like the talent it takes
I would be
is like geez.
terrified, even if it was a good picture. I'd be like, please don't. It could be a good picture. I'd be like, that's not the intention of the doodles with the
Yeah,
blue ink pen during a meeting. It's
yeah.
on
No,
notebook paper.
that's kind of what they said. They were like, he was like, no, don't do that. I can do something better. Like, nope, that's
Like, that's the
that's what we're gonna
raw
do.
energy that we are going for.
Yeah. Um, the thing is, Milo's skills is actually gets greater than that. Like he does this whole self portrait of himself later on in the season, and it looks like a 14th century Napoleon, 14th century maybe, painting.
I
That seems
totally
to
forgot about
Napoleon
that.
was probably what 16th century. I don't know when Napoleon was alive, but
No, my
really good.
history. I don't. I would deface history with my attempt at a guess.
Yeah, probably 16th. Anyway, not important. Um. Anyway, so yeah, so they keep going looking. Milo does meet the love of his life, which is Milo's got some game though. He really does. Like much better than his grandfather,
He,
I think.
amen. He has a natural
So
attractive charm to
papaya.
him.
That's Aang's best line. Is so papaya. But
It's
he
not a
is an
good
actual
line. I
ladies.
would not lead with that personally. I wouldn't try that.
Well, I can't talk. I don't really. I've never tried pickup lines on anyone
No,
ever.
well, I mean, I try them on my wife all the time now. She loves me, and they
Well, yeah,
still
because
are
that's funny.
unsuccessful.
Yeah,
Yeah, they still are
I haven't.
unsuccessful.
Um, yeah.
think
Yeah,
what I
that's
tried the
good.
other day was I would never want to play hide and seek with you because someone like you is impossible to find. And she shook her head and she left. Shook her head
That's
and she
good.
left the room. And that was the end of that conversation before it started.
But Mila says to her, like, first of all, he does good by saying, like, hey, can I trust you? That's a good start off because it's not too strong. Anyway, he eventually gets to the point where he's like, so what can I call you
Excuse me.
besides beautiful? And then,
Which that feels
uh,
it felt smooth. It felt natural.
yeah,
Good for
and also I
him.
gotta respect him because she's clearly older than him, and he was not intimidated by that at all.
Shoot a shot.
Yeah, he
Hey,
got shot.
kids, shoot your shot.
Have you seen that video of this guy at halftime? He's like in a hot dog suit. And he wants to shoot like a half court shot to win something. And the announcer lady is next to him. She's like, "Oh, what's your name?" So this is before he goes and shoots. She's like, "Oh, what's your name?" He's like, "Uh, everyone calls me Johnny, but you can call me anytime." And he grabs the ball, runs to half court, shoots it,
Goodness.
makes it. Everyone goes crazy.
That's
It's funny.
incredible. Everyone calls me Johnny,
I
but
think,
you
and
can
he
call me anytime. That's
like just the
amazing.
audacity to say that line and go nail a half court shot.
If you
It's
miss
pretty good.
that shot, we're still amused, but you make that
Yeah.
shot, so now it sticks. Now it's a thing,
Oh
it's
yeah.
a hook. You crushed it,
Yeah.
man.
And even she was like, 'cause she was like, whoa, and then she's like, it's almost like she was like, let me go call
Now
him.
that
That
he
guy
just won
has.
$50,000, maybe I'll give him a call.
No, it's more like now that he's won a lifetime supply of tacos from Taco Tico or
Way
wherever.
more impressive than $50,000 because I'm going to get my $50,000 out of tacos.
Yeah.
Anyway, Mila, way to
Anyway,
drop your
so
game, son.
yes, Mills created that, and then so then they like. Oh wait, and then so Janora can't find her because Janora can't lock on to her spirit. Um, and then they get some type of lead. They find the fisherman guy who was um was saw Korra earlier. So they're like they got some type of lead here. And then um Icky gets kidnapped by some Quivira henchman type of stuff. And I just love that she feels no danger. Like even in the background, like there's at one point where they're talking to each other, like, "Oh, this is Tenzin's kid. Like we could get this Kavir." Like she's in the background. She takes her hands out and she like scratches her nose and then she puts it back in the ropes, just to show how much in control she is of the situation. And then she eventually turns them on her side. She's like, they're like, "Hey, we should get your family together." She's like, "No, I don't want to be my family. I'd rather be with you guys." Which is just so funny how she just doesn't. Whether she's so annoyed by her siblings, and then she's like, she's really cool with it.
She
And then she eventually, go ahead,
No, I was just gonna say it's pretty admirable how she plays it though.
yeah, and she eventually gets him on her side. Like she like sweet talks him sort of on her side of like, oh, look like, hey, we can help you find the avatar. And she's like, oh, really? And then she like takes her arms out of the out of the ropes. It's a one thing that seems to be a callback to when Aang was like in those in shackles, and then he just like gets out of it, and then he puts his arm on it in the
I forget, but
episode.
is he talking to a jailer or something like that?
No, he's talking to other people in prison
And he just
because
slips
this
out of
because
the shackles.
yeah, because he talks to them, and there and one prison guy is like, so this girl you're into, like she's gonna come around. You're the avatar. You're a good kid. And one guy's like, tell her how you feel, and a tear comes down. He's like, and Angus like, you guys are great. It's that same as that thing. Like, I kind of want to do a whole video about just how the three kids are just all different personality traits of Aang, like but
Parallel,
separated.
some parallel tropes, kind of.
Yeah. Yeah,
Which
like Janora is very spiritual. She has like still responsibilities and stuff, and she looks definitely looks the most like Aang. especially when she was bald.
That's kind of what you want
Icky,
with your kids, though, is that it's like seeing yourself in little parallel universes. Like it's me, but with
yeah,
this.
yeah. Icky is like very trusting and stuff, and kind of has a very light heart. And then Milo is that trickster, right? And Aang is that trickster caricature. So all three of them kind of have separate qualities that Aang had. But so then so that's kind of the part where their plot ends to a certain extent, so they kind of match up with the B plot or the A plot. Actually, I would say in this case the A. Well, they're pretty.
I'm gonna
I
say
would say
they're the
they're
I'm gonna say they're the B plot, but it's close.
it is close. I mean, the story starts off with them. The episode starts off with them, and I'll probably say I don't know.
Depends on how
Anyway,
you weight the chronology, I suppose, right? Like if it, who came first
yeah,
matters more or less
do
to
a
you.
timestamp.
Yeah.
Um, so anyway, so back to Korra. Korra is talking to uh Korra is talking to Toph, and there's something really interesting about this episode. Like Toph's mannerisms are almost like an exact match of how her mannerisms are in Avatar: Last Airbender. Like for some reason, this episode more than any other episode, it just all feels like Toph. It's really interesting. 'Cause just a little bit of commentary I could listen to. Bryan was like, he was talking to one of the animators or something, and he was like, "This episode felt like Toph, like even her mannerisms are all the same." Like he wasn't sure why that happened. He was like, "Did you guys like watch old videos on this and stuff?" And the guy's like, "I don't know." Like, and Brian's like, "You should take credit for it all, like even if you don't know."
It worked out nice. Yeah, just run with it.
Yeah, because there are certain Toph does certain things that Toph can be really rude, especially just when she talk like Toph laying up her legs on something, not really paying attention to you, or looking like she's not paying attention to you. Also, might help that she's blind and she doesn't have to look at you to,
I agree.
oftentimes when, yeah, like when you're talking to people, you're like, you make eye contact and you're focusing on each other. And Toph doesn't, it probably comes off as rude. Toph probably doesn't think about it, really. Probably
She
comes
was
off as
probably
rude,
set
but to
apart
her, it's
from
not.
social norms even before she left society.
Yeah, yes. But also she has her heels kicked up and stuff. There's one part where Korra's like tapping her feet, and Toph raises the earth below her legs to stop it. And Toph also has this thing where Toph will invade your space with earthbending, kind of without your permission. Like she's moved. I can't think how many times she has just moved Sokka out of the way of something. Like
Just an
or
obstacle meant to be
yeah,
replaced. You know, Sokka, you
but
don't even count,
like
man. Sorry.
like that would be rude if I was like, sure, if I was doing something annoying, like tapping my like leg, but then you just grab my leg to stop. Like, no, like just ask me to stop. Like you don't have to. But yeah, that's tough. Tough can be rude. Yeah, I really enjoyed
That is her
that
jam.
aspect of it. Uh oh, and then yes, the funny part. Because Cora's bored. Cora's like, oh, how was it teaching Aang how to earthbend? She's like, I threw some rocks at him. He was being all whiny. Sokka got stuck in a hole. Like, Toph is not the greatest storyteller. She doesn't care. And then she's like, oh, okay. And then and Korra like trying to like get some nuggets out of her. It's like, oh, how was it facing the Fire Lord? I bet it was exciting. And then Toph was like, oh, it was hot. I was on a blimp. And I think a giant turtle showed up at one point.
I
Like,
mean, she nailed it, right?
also,
She's doing the best she
yeah,
can with limited information.
sure, it's with the senses that she had. I mean, she could have been okay. I'm probably giving her too much credit because she could have been like, oh yeah, I remember like Sokka holding on to my hand for dear life. Like she could have told a really good story, but that's not Toph. Toph's like,
Not her
whatever, it was the
jam.
past. It happened.
She could have.
I'm
We
not.
almost died
Yeah, it's like
repeatedly.
like I was literally Sokka was holding on to me just by the fingertips, and then Suki came back out of nowhere, and and crashed. She somehow took over that blimp, crashed into the blimp we were on, and then we landed on the blimp.
On plural occasions, we were almost dead. Let me
Yeah,
elaborate. Also, and then at the end, also there was a giant lion turtle thing.
yeah. But that part was really good. Like to me, this is like really good, tough stuff. Anyway, and then
Toph also just makes a good. You know, we had some commentary last episode about old people not getting less outspoken, and Toph already being that way, she just makes for a very entertaining old person. It
yeah,
exacerbates her more amusing qualities.
yep. So then Toph like sends Korra out to get some mushrooms, even though Toph is like Toph knows what's gonna happen. Korra gets a bunch of visions of like her past, like lowest moments of Amon taking her bending away, of Unavatu ripping out Rava, and of Zahir and them trying to kill her in the Avatar state. Like really traumatic stuff.
That's kind of
And
a crazy. I mean, I guess you could draw some parallels, but having unique storylines instead of a single overarching storyline. It's like Korra's got some cool scars that maybe Aang doesn't quite have the ability to have. Obviously, he was basically dead once too, but like having a
yeah,
definitive ending to 3 prior seasons.
yeah, like there's something terrible doesn't happen to him in each season. Like season one ends like
Something awesome. I mean,
yeah,
dude,
so
so awesome.
yeah, he turns into a giant fish. It just lays waste. Uh, season two, he does nothing physical happens, but emotionally he loses Appa. But that doesn't seem to like come up as like, oh, this negatively impacts him. He did get shot by Azula at the
But so
end,
he's got a
but
Ascar.
yeah, but that doesn't like these things aren't. They kind of just bounced off of him. He moved past them relatively quickly,
He
especially to
didn't really
Korra.
have a near death experience in his mind, or at least we didn't notice an emotional impact. But like
Yeah,
Corey, you're working on. You got 3 seasons worth of like pretty heinous
he-
scars
yeah,
to go off of.
heavy trauma that would have changed her life. It is and continues to change her life. Like that damage is like almost irreparable. Uh,
Scars are. That's the idea. Emotional, physical.
yeah,
Scars don't really heal that well.
yeah.
Hashtag deep.
So then she talks to Toph, and Toph's like, "Yeah, I thought you might get some visions like that." And she's like, Why would you want me to see all the terrible things that happen to me?" She's like, "You keep fighting your past. Like, how do you expect to face your enemies of the future when you keep still fighting the ones in your past?" And then Toph does some really cool, she's like, think about it. Like maybe the swamp is trying to teach you something. Like your enemies were trying to do good, but they end up getting all corrupt. Like Amon wanted equality. Unalak brought back the spirit. Zahir wanted freedom. Like these aren't bad things separately, but you have to be in balance. And she was like, I can sense you're out of balance. Um, and this is when Toph becomes like the good teacher that Korra needs. Like Toph was like, I'll help you. There's one aspect of this that I really one part of the conversation that I really, really loved. Like Toph takes her to the banyo tree, which is beautiful. It's beautiful art. And she's like, you've lost your connection. Like you you shut yourself off from your loved ones and that has hurt you. And I think there's a underlying message here about when you're going through trauma and trying to recover that shutting yourself off um, is not the way to go about it. You have to rely on those loved ones around you, even though you feel like they might not be helping you. You still need them around.
It's heavy emotions for for our podcast. And I think another thing that helps it land is maybe again, I'm probably giving Toph too much credit, but maybe again that it's Toph when she shifts tone
Mm.
so extremely from your usual. It kind of
Yeah,
grabs your attention. Again, I don't want to give her too much credit here, but I think that's a big plus that it's coming from Toph.
Yeah. Um, Also, it's a good to me. Toph's character arc. It's funny I had this whole conversation with people about on Twitter about Aang not having a character arc. You don't like to admit it, but he doesn't really have a character. I mean, he has growth and things like that, but his beliefs don't really change. To me, character arc, at least your beliefs change. To be more specific, like the lie you tell yourself, you have to confront. Um, Aang doesn't do any of that. But Toph actually does have a more solidified character arc, right? So her character arc is like she doesn't need other people. She started off being like, I don't need you guys, like I can handle myself and stuff like that. And it's really amazing to see her giving the opposite lesson to that she learned to Korra, saying like you need people in your life. You need to stick with your loved ones. Like they're gonna help you.
And you don't really notice all the time how much she has changed or if that is stuck or if really anything has
Yeah.
arced. But then you get these little glimpses that are very vindicating for her character.
Hmm. Yep. And then Milo and Icky is Milo, Icky, and Janora try searching the swamp. Oh, I meant to say Milo. Yeah, he's being annoying, but I don't. I'm not like mad at Milo for being annoying because that's what he's like. It's not
It's
like
kind of his
doesn't go
jam,
against his
yeah.
character.
It's kind of just
Um,
how he do.
yeah, and also he's a annoying little brother or something. Like siblings,
Yeah.
just yeah. Like sometimes my daughter does something, and I'm just like, why? Like she'll get annoyed that my son does something. I'm like, why would you even be annoyed by that? Like that doesn't. Like I feel like you're just being annoyed by him just because like he's what he's doing right now doesn't really affect you. I don't mean they're all great. My daughter's a good big sister, both her little brothers, and my middle son, not middle son, he's my first son. He's a good big brother too. Um, but they they
They're
do
going to have
sibling
their
things
moments. Every
that
sibling
yeah
does.
yeah. Sometimes they're just yelling at each other. I'm just like, y'all just shut up. Like go sit. I don't tell them. I don't think I ever told them.
You're
I
talking
think one time I
about
told my
like a
daughter to shut up.
plastic, heaven knows what it is. Like,
But anyway, Toph takes Korra to the banyo tree, and Korra connects to it, and then she immediately sees Janora, which I just love this whole moment here. Like she sees Janora, and like this little spark of energy connects to Janora, and Janora's like, I know where Korra's at, and then Korra's like, oh, I found Janora. She's like, her and Ikimila are like right here, and Toph's like, good. I hope they're coming here to take you away. Like, that's such an old person thing. But just and then just the sheer thought of them puts a smile on Cora's face, and this genuine smile, which I'm just like, I don't know, because I've been listening to the Raven Elements podcast a lot more, but I'm just more and more impressed with Jenny Varney's voice acting. I think than I have been,
I've
and
become
it might just
I'm
be,
I'm probably too biased at this point because of the podcast. Like I've become a little
yeah.
smitten with Janet.
I would love to meet Jenny Varney. That would be, for some reason, I think out of all the voice actors, I would love to meet Jenna Varney
You should
the
like
most.
screenshot all of the times that she likes your tweets, and so when you meet her, be like, "Hey, I know we haven't met in person, but
Yeah. Oh, did you see this on this week's Jason Mantzoukas was on the podcast?
no, was he
Uh,
really?
yes.
Oh my goodness, Chris, you've predicted the future." No, I
I
didn't
know,
listen to
right?
this week yet, but that's, I mean, again, whole Brooklyn 99 bit.
Yeah, I know, right?
He's
And
okay, but
so,
he kind of feels like he's in everything right now. I don't know why that is, but I think it's just because he's in a lot of the shows that we have in common, probably.
yeah, yeah. But like things I've heard him on his podcast. He has a great podcast called "How Did This Get Made?" with the other guy from the league, bald guy. He's in those T-Mobile commercials
Well, his
now.
name is Andre, but I don't know in the league. I don't know what his
Yeah.
actual name
Uh,
is, but
and his wife is on it also. They have this podcast called How Did This Get Made? They
I
usually
didn't.
cover like
I did.
terrible.
I had no idea that was them. I listened to How Did This Get Played sometimes, which obviously is intentionally in the same lineup with bad video
Okay.
games, and then they recently kind of reformatted.
Ah,
I've never listened to How Did This Get Made. I had no idea it was those two guys. That's
yeah.
awesome.
And the other guy's wife. But so one time they did the Last Airbender, and Jason Mantzoukas like he's seen Avatar: Last Airbender before. He's like, yeah, and like Avatar: Last Airbender, it's like such a good show. Like, how did they mess this up? Like, how did M Night just do
Chris,
terrible?
Chris, your impressions are spot on today. I
Thank
if
you.
I met
It's,
Jason Mantzoukas in real life, I wouldn't trust him at first. To like, I'd be extra jumpy around him. Like, is he real crazy? Because he's
yeah,
usually crazy. After I got
yeah.
to know him, I'm sure I'd be very happy. But just at first, I'd be a little wary.
But yeah. So I mean, I've heard him plenty of times like appreciate Avatar: Last Airbender in Legend of Korra, and so it was really cool to. And he's pretty good friends with Jen Varney. It seemed like they're good friends. I mean, she said that they're good friends, and so Janet tends to like get guests on the show a lot of times that are kind of in nerd circles. I think she's good friends with, which is
Industry
cool.
people,
Like
yeah.
I don't. And so like I did tweet out something just like, oh, like because I tweeted out a long time ago that one, and also my video that Jason Mantzoukas would be a great Varric, and then I did tweet out to Jennifer and like oh, I knew he was a fan, but I'm just so happy to hear him on the podcast and stuff.
No, it's awesome. I didn't
Um,
catch this week's yet. I'll have to turn it on tomorrow. Friday's a good podcast day, so that's very likely.
yeah. So he was like, afterwards on podcasts, people are like, oh, plug whatever you're in. He's like, oh, I'm in like Star Trek Prodigy, which is like very kind of in Avatar veins, kind of Nickelodeon show, but it's on Paramount Plus. It's about like a group of people, a group of kids, they get a hold of some Star Trek ship. I forget what the ships are called. Well, I know
Yeah,
what the one is called USS Enterprise, but I don't know what
yeah.
like the ship itself is
I don't know anything
called.
about Star Trek
I guess
other
just a,
than
just a
William
spaceship.
Shatner and
Um, but um, but then he was like, also, he was like, I think your fans will love this. But then also he was like, he was like, also, I'm in Big Mouth. Like, not the same audience. Don't your fans might not love that. And then Jennifer was like, yeah, maybe not,
slightly
but
different age
yeah,
groups
I
of
love.
people watching, I
Yeah,
would imagine.
I was really into like the first season or two of Big Mouth, and then I was like, I think I got enough of this show.
That's one of those where I turned it on for an episode and like it's not that I wasn't chuckling a little bit, but it didn't stick. Like I had no appeal, like pull to turn on another
Yeah.
episode. But I mean, I
Oh,
laughed
anyway,
at what I was watching. It's not like it was not trying to
yeah.
bash it too hard, you know.
I mean, it did remind me of a lot of going through, not going through puberty because that doesn't, of going through middle school and stuff like that. Of just like not knowing things,
I gotta
it
be
being
honest, I don't
clueless.
remember what middle school that is. That is middle like 4, 5, 6, 3, 4, 5.
Sheesh, shot.
I didn't have.
Middle, well, okay,
Well, I
so
just all
it
mine are in the
depends.
same. All mine were in the same building,
Okay,
right? The grade
it depends for
school and then
people.
the high school.
Uh, so middle school for me was sixth, seventh, and eighth
Oh,
grade.
like
I believe
okay,
in
junior high.
Kansas.
Got it.
Yeah, we didn't call it junior high. I believe in Kansas, it is seventh and eighth grade.
So yeah, ours is just the high school is across the street from the grade school. That's all there is. That's it. Share the same
But
cafeteria.
anyway,
You go to lunch at different times, right? Little kids eat first, high school eat second. Same everything. It's pretty wild.
um, man, I went off a tangent right before like one of my favorite moments in all of the whole series. Like, so the Airbending kids fly over to Korra. They're like, "It's Korra!" And Korra sees them, and like she's so happy, she cries. Like tears of joy. It's just like such genuine joy. Like tears of joy is just for a character almost makes me more emotional, like tears of sadness and stuff because it is like, it reminds me when Iroh reunited with not that's on a way different higher level. When Iroh reunited with Zuko, like Zuko's first tears are like tears of like sadness, tears of like I'm sorry, Uncle, like, and then Iroh like sees him, he's happy to be reunited with him. Korra is just it's just great to see Korra smile again because like the last time, the last time we saw Korra cry it was when she was in the wheelchair, she was in Janora's tattoo ceremony, master ceremony, and that it's funny because there's a huge parallel there. Like she was with the Airbending kids, seeing Janora, and she cried. Now this time she sees Janora, she's crying again. That's a completely different reason. Just really cool storytelling dynamics with that.
The I'm gonna have to agree, and I think it's just because I find it a more pleasant emotion that I like, but I tend to be more impacted by the tears of joy than tears of sadness, just
Yeah.
because it's one of those that I'd rather cling to longer. I've
I think
nurtured my
Tears of
brain to
Joy
do
is
that.
much harder. I think it's much harder to em
Make it
emote and,
feel
and
genuine.
empathize with
Okay,
a
yeah.
character who has tears of joy rather than tears of sadness. Tears of sadness is like I feel like that emotion's easy to manipulate in viewers.
You can be sad
Like
about a lot of things. That's easy.
Pixar has done a good job of that. It's like, all right, somebody dies, but like tears of joy. There's been a few times that I've been able to. I feel like there's been a few times where shows show tears of joy and just happiness, and that I've been able to feel those same empathize with that same character. Um, I think in Coco, I had tears of joy in there, like Coco and and their dad like finally met up. It's like, oh my gosh, they did it. And then like
Tears of
that,
joy
yeah,
where like it really feels real and organic, and
yeah,
you're in the moment too. You're not watching it and being skeptical, but you're already hooked into it.
yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah. There are
That's the
some
way I
times where
want it
like a
more.
character dies and I'm like, this is I'm not buying
I'm
this.
not feeling it. That character was stupid.
I mean, it's not the, so and I won't spoil Spider-Man No Way Home for anybody. But I know you don't care about spoilers, but who knows? Someone might,
The other one, yeah, no,
there's
I
yeah,
get that I'm in the minority. That's fine.
there's a certain death that well, I'm just like I'm pretty sure other people are loving this or feeling the emotion for this, but I'm not because they do a little misdirect. Like don't do misdirects with 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 you know emotional scenes you're trying to do. Just you gotta play it straight. You can't be like, oh, this person's fine, and then 1 minute later, oh no, they're dying.
Yeah, I would not be fond of emotionally misdirected. Being emotionally misdirected at all, that doesn't sound like my jam. I don't even
Uh,
I don't even like flashbacks and stories. I pretty much want stories just to happen in very linear chronological order. Don't don't mess with my head too much. Just tell me a story. Come on.
yeah.
I have a very
So
very simple
then
manner.
Korra has to work to get the poison out of her, and the music is swelling up. The music is great and stuff. Just a great moment. Her avatar state is reinstated.
Pun intended.
Um, yeah, very much so. And it kind of ends on that note when they tell her like, "Hey, you gotta go face Kavir now."
Chris, let's figure out if I put the ratings on the right slides this week. I feel like the first time in a few weeks. We'll see how this goes. Hey, that's a good start.
IO visual 8.5. There's a couple different Korra fighting scenes I thought was really good. Kind of fighting with herself, or maybe that was last episode. But I digress. So the banyo tree, beautiful done, beautiful animation. But I thought the music in this episode was done really, really, really well. Especially when she was getting the poison out of herself. And I like that Korra did it herself. Um, yeah, yeah, really good stuff. So, oh, voice acting, also really, really good job there. 8.5. Yeah, 8.5 is fair, I think. 8.5 is good. So, story, give it a 9. I think there's so much good stuff going on with Korra in this episode. Um, just the whole, I think, aspect of staying in contact and connections with your loved ones to get through um, any issues you have. I think that was done really beautifully well. And I can also talk about how Toph is coming full circle with her or going back and informing her character arc. Really, really intriguing. And I just love all the also those story stuff within the airbending siblings. That was good. Story got a 9. Memorable also gets a 9. Just one of my favorite moments in the whole entire show is Korra. Uh, it's the Airbnb kids jumping to Korra and hugging her. That relationship, those relationships are some of my favorite throughout the show. Or with the Airbnb kids, like she is like their big sister, and I just love it.
Brings you up to an 8.8 weighted score. I'm struggling to remember what I gave out here, so I might be a little surprised. Okay, audio visual. That feels right. Ditto, right? And in short, I'll just say that all of the. I don't know that I picked up on the music, but I suppose in a way sometimes that's good. It's not overpowering or anything. But I trust you when you say if it's building up. I'm sure it's amazing. Yeah, but again, if you're not like being distracted by it, that's probably a win too. But there's just a lot of very attractive animation and very attractive scenery. It's a very good looking episode. Story, I went 8.5. Why did I go 8.5? Oh, it's not really a Shawn story. It's not particularly lighthearted. Not a good reason to be that critical of it. Um, but 8.5, very, very endearing. Love seeing both sides of Toph in the same story. The kind of the extremes of
Mm,
Toph happen in the
yeah.
same story. I can see how you could say I've shorted this one a little bit. I wouldn't argue with you. Oh, memorable 9.5.
Ooh.
Oh, that's a little surprising. But again, I'm probably putting a little bit too much weight onto Toph here. But such a pivotal moment in the series, and then at the very end where you feel like there's kind of hope for past Korra, like there's hope for a normal
Mm,
Avatar again, seeing her come back into the Avatar state, gives you this glimmer of all is right with the world. So such a powerful ending there. I think that's probably my biggest credit toward the memorability is just that sort of inspired feeling you get from a very satisfying ending of the episode. But some of the memorability, that's a hard word to say, is just going to go to the swamp itself as kind of being a character in the
oh
in the
yeah.
story. That's always exciting. But
The
uh,
swamp was probably more reminiscent of the swamp in the swamp episode than the previous episode, even though we were still in the swamp. The
yeah, in
swamp
that
was doing a
episode,
lot of
they kind
swampy
of
things.
in that episode, there the swamp has a life to it, but in just kind of a generic plant life kind of way, magic plant life. But like here, it really feels like the swamp is a character,
Hmm.
and so I would say that's I don't know, it's
I
very
would
cool.
love to know. I would love to know the history behind the swamp. Like, I know the banyo tree. I forgot where I read it at, but banyo tree is like a other connection. It connects to the tree of time. I forgot where I read that at, but I'm 90% sure that's accurate. Um, kind of in a way, but also I feel like I think it has similar properties. And the swamp must be a spirit in of itself. I feel like it has similar properties to the Fog of Lost Souls. The Fog of Lost Souls shows you things as well, but like almost like they're a brother or a sibling type of deal. That's kind of interesting. Because to me they do similar things,
If
but
the
the Fog of Lost Souls is trying to torture you, while the swamp is trying to. They both show you bad things, or they both show you.
uh, you
I would
know,
say, well,
could it be like a yin and yang situation
yeah,
with
but like one
the
is trying
mango
to
tree in
help
the
you,
swamp and
and the other one's trying to torture you. Oh, so some interesting
they might be showing
dichotomy
you
there.
similar-ish things, but yeah, there's sort of in different end games to them at least. So I don't
Yeah.
know. It's kind of a yin yang situation. Feels like I don't know, but
No, yeah.
hey, like I said, I don't. For some reason, given these numbers, it's not really it's not resonating really well in my head. But clearly, I changed them because they're different from the last two episodes. But overall, I really like this episode. It's not
Yeah.
it's not a super Sean like episode,
Ooh.
but it's a very good episode. Brings 8.8, so our total was 8.8. How about that? Doesn't happen very often.
No, I love this episode.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if throughout the rest of the season I'm also kind of up and down. Because the first episode, I probably gave it something similar to episode 3. Then episode 2, absolutely loved Cora Alone. And then episode 3 didn't love as much. And then episode 4, I'm right back up.
Surely towards
I'm
the
pretty
end,
sure
like
episode 5 doesn't go. I
The
know episode
smaller
5 is not
sample
going to go
size
down
of
that.
episodes is going to make that harder to weigh, right? Because the last few are always going to be pretty
Yeah.
wild, right? The last 3 or the last 4, I can't remember kind of where the crazy starts. So the
Yeah.
smaller sample size might make it feel skewed, but it is kind of interesting that you're on a very big roller coaster at the moment, back and forth. Hey, that's what I got. And this week we even managed to talk about the episode itself, so that's pretty exciting. Didn't talk about Shannon Sharp once. No offense, Shannon Sharp. We love you. Fight's a good
Skip.
fight.
My grandpappy told me if there. That was more Mr. T. But I mean, Shannon's always talking about is like some type of saying his grandfather would say or his grandma. Like it's funny.
I always wonder what Sterling's up to. I'd be curious. But hey, thanks for watching Avatar: The Last Podcasters. My name's Shawn. That's Chris Ford, aka the Objective Geek of YouTube and Twitter fame. I will put all the details as usual down in the description. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good time. Have a good time. Have a good time. Yeah, sure. Why not? Whatever you're doing, have a good time. And we'll see you next time. And this time I'm going to find my mouse faster. There it is. It went by. Wow, I've got to fix my mouse problems. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.